Everyone, we're a couple minutes late getting started here, and I apologize. I broke my computer today. So for an online TEFL teacher, that's not a great thing to have happen. And in the business of busy trying to get it all fixed today. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the back office and what do you need to get started as an online TEFL teacher. And some of the basic hardware. You don't need to get really fancy. Simple basics will do. My current computer is a 6-year-old i7 first generation with basic Dell flat screen 16:9 monitor. I use a 1080p 12 megapixel webcam. The webcam cost me about 350 pesos. It wasn't very expensive. And for microphone, it depends on whether I'm using my headset or standalone microphone. If I'm using my headset, I've got a gamer's headset that I actually paid about 600 pesos for. The rest of the time I use what's called a shotgun mic. It's a unidirectional mic with a cat skin or a little furry ball that goes on the end of it to eliminate wind noise. And basically it only picks up what's right in front of it. So it ignores everything from the sides and behind. You eliminate most of the background noise and you eliminate most of the distractions when you're teaching online. For software, I've used a couple of different formats. One company used Skype for one-to-one conversational type lessons, basically online chat. It didn't pay very well, but it wasn't very difficult. There was no prep work to speak of. The other one that I do is Dada, ABC, and it's teaching Chinese kids from about 5 to about 10 years old. And it's basic entry-level EFL type material. And I have to use their online platform, which has some advantages and some disadvantages. The advantages are that material's already prepared. All I do is enter the digital classroom and follow the recipe. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes before I start my session for the day to prep for 3 or 4 classes, and they're all ready to go. The other advantage is it allows you to use some add-in software so that you can have multiple cameras or multiple screens. So I can have my main video camera pointing at me. I can have a secondary camera pointing at a book or something else that I might want to highlight. And I can use the digital streaming platform, the multi-screen format, and add another scene where we can look at a very short song or a short video to reinforce the learning that we're doing in the classroom that day, in our digital classroom. So that gives me different tools that I can use. The tools you use will depend a lot on your hardware. If you've got a fiber connection and a fairly new computer that can multitask well with lots of memory in it, then you can do multi-screen formats and you can add all of those extra things into your class. If you've got an older computer, or heaven forbid you're still working on Skype on a smartphone or doing audio classes, you don't have those options. But even with a simple smartphone and audio classes, you can still teach online and make 200 or 300 pesos an hour. It's not the biggest money around, but it doesn't take a lot of hardware either. A simple 2 megabit data connection and a smartphone does the job. If you want to get into some of the ones that pay better, then you'll need to look at doing a studio, a home studio of sorts. And again, it doesn't have to be fancy. And I'll just show you a little bit about what I've got here. My backdrop is just exactly that. It's a backdrop cloth. It's a vinyl sheet, about 2 meters by 2 meters, and I just hang it behind me, and it looks like I'm sitting in a library. And I can use different formats. My computer, as I said earlier, I broke, and it's sitting over there on the kitchen table, and I'm working on getting it fixed, and I should have it put back together later this evening. And there's my monitor. I have a couple of webcams that I can use. They're basic 200-300 peso webcams. So we're not talking a lot of big hardware to get started in online teaching. The most important thing is your internet connection. You've got to have a stable internet connection. If your students can't hear you, they'll quit. If your students can't see you, they'll quit. If you have problems with students quitting, your whoever it is that's employing you for online teaching is going to let you go. So you want to make sure that you're not having problems with your internet connection. The hardware, you don't need a lot of fancy stuff. I know people that are using, like I said, I'm using a 6-year-old desktop. I know lots of people that are using Pentium or Celeron or AMD laptops, the type that you can buy for 10 or 12,000 pesos new and probably half that price used. And they're getting started. Once you've got the hardware, providing your English skills are up to the task, it's not hard to find work. There are lots of employers out there who are looking to hire teachers. Some of them have great reputations. Some of them have reputations that are not as good, like 51 Talk, for example. But it's still a good place to start and get your feet wet. Another thing that you've got to have when you get started with online teaching is think about how you're going to get paid. If you're going to use PayPal for getting paid, set up your account ahead of time. Set it up, link it to the bank and PayPal and the bank will go through some routines to verify the account and make sure it's all linked properly. Once it's linked, it's real easy to get your money. You just go to PayPal and download it. If it's not linked, it could take a couple of weeks to actually go through the process, get everything taken care of, and then get your money. In the meantime, you're sitting there still teaching, your money's stuck in PayPal, and you're going, what can I do? Okay, so if you're going to use PayPal, take care of it ahead of time. WeChat is another option for teachers who are in the Philippines or Thailand, and you can use the WeChat app and WeChat banking. I think it's linked to the BPI in the Philippines. I'm not sure. You'll have to double check it because I don't use it. But you can use that and make sure that you're getting, when you get paid, you can actually get your pay rather than have it stuck sitting in a cyber account somewhere that you can't access. So when you're even just starting to think about doing online teaching or anything online, get your PayPal account set up. Get it linked properly so that it's working without problems before you start work. So when you start working, you don't have a problem getting paid. The day after payday, the money's in your PayPal account. You just download it to your bank and you've got money to spend. Some of the better paying online TEFL jobs will pay 15, 20, 25, 30, up to 40,000 pesos per month, depending on how much you're working. Some of them let you work part-time, and you can still earn 10 or 15,000 pesos a month doing part-time work, evenings or just on a Saturday or just on a Sunday. So there are lots of options and flexibility. So the key things to remember: have your PayPal account set up ahead of time so that you can use it and they can pay you, and you can download your money from PayPal into your bank account. Make sure you've got a stable internet connection. If it's not stable, you won't be able to do the job, students won't stay with you, and you won't get paid. 3, basic hardware. It doesn't need to be fancy. 300 peso webcam, 500 pesos for a decent headset, and even an old desktop will usually chug along and do just fine to get you started. After you've been working for a couple of months and you've had a couple of good paychecks, then you can think about upgrading your hardware, getting a nice desktop, or getting a nice laptop. But until you get to that point, you don't need the expensive hardware. You need decent quality hardware with a great internet connection so that you can get online, teach online, work online, make money online on a consistent and regular basis. It's for Filipino teachers, depending on who you're working with and depending on the quality of your English and your ability to interact with your students online. And that's different than interacting in a classroom. When you're online with a young child or online with somebody, it has to go beyond the simple chat. You still need to have an objective for your class. What are your students going to learn today? At the end of today, what will they know that they didn't know when we started the class? How can they use it? How can I check it? How can I assess their learning? And those are always things that we need to keep in mind as online teachers, is when we think about the objective for the class. If you go into a class and you don't have a clear objective in your mind, it's nothing more than a chat session. And you won't last very long as a teacher. So you need to make sure you have a clear objective in mind. At the end of today, my student will be able to say, use, demonstrate, show, some activity, some response, some language output. So we want to make sure that they have those we have the clear objectives, and they have something that they can actually take away from the learning, and they can say at the end of the day, wow, at the end of today, I can actually do this that I couldn't do before. I like you, teacher. You're a good teacher. I'll be back tomorrow, or I'll be back next time. And you'll build a regular clientele of students that way. You get 9 or 12 students, regular students every week, and you'll be making a pretty good sum of money, even working part-time. 12 students a week at 30 minutes per class, and 2 or 3 classes a week, you're probably looking at 10 to 15,000 pesos a month, depending on who you're working for. It could be even more than that. Some of the top paying places are offering $6 and $8 an hour, US dollars an hour. So that's what, 400 pesos an hour at their top rates. So if you're teaching 12 hours a week, that adds up really quickly, for part-time work even. So you want to make sure that you have those clear objectives when you're dealing with your students online, so that they say, wow, I did learn something. I've got something that I can I can take away from this lesson, and tomorrow or the next session I can come back and we can pick up and I can continue and we start scaffolding and laddering and building on those skill sets and reinforcing what they've learned. And the advantage to doing it that way is the teacher also learns while they're teaching. Learning is an ongoing process, both for teachers and for students. We learn from our students, students learn from the teachers, and we both build our skill sets as we move along. So that's one of the things that we want to keep in mind. If you're interested in regards to learning how to be a better TEFL teacher, on my YouTube channel, if you come back to the channel after we're finished the live session or sometime in the future when you have time, there's a playlist called TEFL or TEFL course, and it's about 24 or 25 video lectures on different areas and different topics for teaching English as a foreign language. Although mostly they're classroom based, but a lot of the learning that you get from them still applies when you're working one-on-one with your students. There's also a downloadable PDF textbook and workbook that you can download. They're in the links are in the video description of video 1. They're free. You don't have to register. You don't have to give an email. You don't have to do anything. Just click the link and download it and save it to your hard drive or save it to your phone. Save it to your memory, and you can read the textbook and the workbook at your convenience. When you've got time online, you can go through the video lectures, and you don't have to watch them in order. You know, look at the ones that seem like they might be helpful to you at the time. So if you want, if you're spending a lot of time talking to your students, then look at the sessions on context modeling and warm-ups and communicative language teaching rather than teaching reading or teaching grammar, both of which are also included in that video set. So, pick and choose the videos that are appropriate for you as you need them, and work through the videos, watch them, and take some notes and think about how you can apply that in your online teaching so that you can be a better online teacher and you can build your client base of students while you're teaching. A really good teacher is one that is focused on the learning of the student and doesn't get too distracted during the process. So if you're teaching reading, make sure the student has a copy of what you're working on. Make sure you have a copy and work through the reading process, whether you're looking at phonics and learning basic sight words and vocabulary, or starting to do extensive and extended reading as part of the reading, the learning and reading process. If they're learning basic writing, you can discuss the writing in your session. They can practice a little bit of writing for homework. They can upload it to you. You can have a look at it. You can discuss it and critique it in the next video session you've got with your student. Then you can move to the next step on how to improve your writing. Remember to move in baby steps, because most of these classes are only 20, 30, 40 minutes. They're not very long and they disappear really fast, right? So focus on small steps and try and reinforce what you learned last time and add one more little step this time, so that as you're teaching through the process and working through the process with your student, they're able to absorb what they're teaching, they're able to apply it to what they've learned last time and build their own skills moving forward. And as teachers, especially novice teachers who are not used to being regular teachers either in TEFL or in an online environment, these are the kinds of things that we need to do. Okay, so we're looking at scaffolding and laddering the process. We start with, part A, and we talk a little bit about it, and we practice it a little bit, and maybe give them some homework to do with it. And then the next session we come back to that session, we look at it, we look at what they've done, we look at where they are, we give them a chance to practice, and then we move on to the next little step, right? So now we're building on the second step. Then next week we build on the third step, or the fourth step, and the fifth step. And we start to ladder and scaffold and build it up. And they don't really realize how much they learn in a very short span of time by scaffolding and laddering the process in an upward fashion like that, because they're building on each piece each week. So we're moving beyond simple conversation into building their skill sets and building their language learning. Most of the people watching this, I would assume, are already bilingual, English and another language. Some of you are trilingual or even quadrilingual, 3 or 4 languages. So you have a really good idea of that process, right? So we try and get away from doing translations and start using graphics where we can, images, videos, imagery, sign language. There's a lot to be said for sign language and body language as we're going through the learning process, because they start learning words in context rather than trying to translate them in their head. When they do that, they start actually thinking in the target language. Instead of hearing "open the door," translating it to their own language, figuring it out what it was, doing the action, then coming back and responding to it, they just hear "open the door" and they do the action, right? They go click and click to turn the doorknob and open the door, or open the window, or some other activity. In terms of learning methods, it's called TPR, Total Physical Response. And with young learners and in the online process, TPR is a really great way to learn. So don't be afraid to push your chair back if you need to, and stand up, and so that you can actually use physical things, realia, in your teaching. So if we're going to talk about a camera, we don't just say the word camera, we actually show a camera, right? We can talk about the lens, we can talk about the shutter stop, we can talk about the microphone, we can talk about the tripod, we can talk about the different parts of the camera so that they're getting them in context. Take a picture. Right? So it's all about putting context to the language. If we just talk out loud to them and we don't have context, there's nothing that they can apply to the learning, it's just noise. It would be like me going and speaking to you in German or Korean. Ne, 한국 말아요. 나는 데이브 선생님입니다. 이름이 뭐예요? If you understand Korean, that's fine. If you don't understand Korean, it's just noise. And because there was no context to that language set, we didn't understand a word of it. But if we look at, say, French, for example, and we go, les yeux, un, deux, deux yeux, les yeux, my eyes, le nez, la bouche, ouvrez la bouche, fermez la bouche. And if you can understand that, because you're seeing the message and understanding the context, then you're doing everything correct for your student to learn the language. They're getting messages in context. And the backstory on that, it comes from Stephen Krashen and input theory, comprehensible input, and it goes back about 30 years. It's never been proven to be incorrect. So the input hypothesis has since become the input hypothesis. But those are the theories that we work from as TEFL teachers. So we're learning from people like Stephen Krashen and David Noonan and Paul Matsuda. And these are the people that have given us the theories and the methods that we use to become more effective as language teachers. So comprehensible input is a really big one. If you've got access to Google, a quick Google will, you'll give you lots of stuff to read and learn about for comprehensible input. Don't get buried in the theory, but look at ways and means of making input. What you say is your output is the student's input. They have to make it comprehensible so they can understand that input. So we have to use visual aids, we have to use gestures and signs, we can use body language, we can use facial language, as well as expressions in English to help them learn the different things in context, the comprehensible input. Okay, so we're looking at comprehensible input, we're looking at laddering, or social cognition, where we learn something, and then we build on that learning as we build and build and build, and improve as we go along. Excuse me. And we build on what we've learned. So we're trying to do that with the students. We ladder them. If you dump too much stuff on top, they get buried and they get lost, and it's like incomprehensible, just noise to them. So we want to start with little steps and keep building on each step as we go, right? So we keep building and building and building and laddering as we build their language skills, as they move from pre-linguistic. I wish there was bourbon in the Coke. It's just plain Coke. But I don't have a bottle of water beside me, so I had to use the cola. No, there's no bourbon. If you want, you can buy me some. But I don't have any there. Back to what I was talking about. We're looking at Vygotsky and social constructivism. Vygotsky was the psychologist that developed the theories of social constructivism and scaffolding, if you want to look back on the theory for social constructivism. But basically, that's what we do all the way through the school process, through the learning process, from grade 1 to grade 12 to university, is we scaffold and we build on what we learned before. So in grade 1, we learn the ABCs. Grade 2, we learn to write and learn to read sight words. Grade 3, we're speaking more, we're writing more often. By the time we get to university, we're doing papers in English, right? So that's all part of that scaffolding and building on what's gone before. So we're trying to scaffold and build. Remember, we need comprehensible input. They have to understand what you're telling them. Speaking louder doesn't help, okay? You can shout at somebody, it's still just noise. Right? Add sign language, add actions and motions, add realia, real things to show and demonstrate. So yes, that is a cola. See, it's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola, yeah, there it is, English, Coca-Cola. Okay, so, we're using real things to demonstrate language learning. Okay, that's pretty much where I was going to go today. The rest of what I was hoping to talk about, I can't because I broke my computer, so I can't actually demonstrate. I'm actually on my phone right now, so I can't demonstrate some of the back end things that I promised originally, and I apologize. Do come back next time. I will show you my back office. So we've got some props and some toys and some, a little whiteboard and some markers and some puppets and some talking toys that we can use for working with kids. And I'll show you what I've got, And I'll give a demonstration on sort of on what I do in a classroom. So that's next Friday, 8 o'clock Philippine time, 7 o'clock Thai time. Come back and I'll give a demonstration. It'll probably be about a 10-minute demonstration for an online class to try and get it interactive and more active. And if we're trying to build the number of students that we've got, signing up to work with us as their regular teacher, rather than getting, the agency to try and feed you students who come for 3 or 4 lessons and then disappear again, you never make any money that way. You get regular students, all of a sudden you start getting more salary, you get more bonuses, you get bonuses for students signing on and staying with you, you get bonuses for students re-signing and staying with you for longer than the original contracted period that they were on for, right? So all of those things add up. So we're going to look next time at an actual interactive class. So I'm going to show you, I'll have the TV behind me, and I'll video and show you what a real class looks like. Thank you, Tez. I'm glad the videos were helpful. You're welcome. So come back next week and we'll actually do a demonstration of an online video class. So when you have to do your demo to get that online teaching job, you want to be as active and interactive as you can possibly be. That'll let them know that you're the kind of person they want to hire. It'll get you a higher rate when you do get hired. The more active and interactive you are, the better the rate is that they'll offer you to start with. So come back next week. We'll have a live interactive session where I'll be showing what it's like to work in an online classroom so that you can prepare your demo and prepare your, when you sign on with somebody, you do an intro video, usually between 30 seconds and a minute long, and that's to try and entice new students to try you. If that demo is really catchy and gets their eye or gets the parents' eye, then all of a sudden you'll have a lot of parents coming to you for their trial. If the trial session is interactive and busy, they'll sign up and stay with you. So you'll get a regular student, you'll get the sign-up bonus, depending on who your agency is. You may get other bonuses for signing up regulars, and depending on what coursework they sign in for. Those are all options. So next week, interactive, and there'll be homework next week after the class. There will be homework. I'll expect you to do a short little demo video so that we can upload and take a look at what you're doing and critique them and help you get better at what you're doing so that you can get better as an online teacher and grow your business, because online teaching is tutoring one-to-one. You may be working through an agency or some other company, but you're still building your own client base. So we want to show you how to build that client base, your regular students. And you build a client base of regular students who come back time and time and time again, it won't be long before you are making $6 and $8 US an hour. And when you convert that to pesos, that's not bad money. Okay, do we have any other questions from anybody this evening? I'm going to wrap it up a little bit early so I can get back to fixing my computer. So I'm ready for classes tomorrow. So does anybody have any questions before we rock on? Okay. If you want to ask questions and interact via the chat, set up a Gmail account. If you're logged into your Gmail account when you're watching YouTube, you can there's a little chat box down in the corner there, and you can chat live and interactive with me. Or you can put messages down below in the comment section. The comment sections of my videos are open for comments. So you can leave a comment, leave a question, ask what you want. I did have one other question from somebody, and I do apologize. She sent it to me on Facebook, and my computer's broken. I don't have Facebook right now. So I will look up that question if you're online right now. I will look up your question, and I'll get back to you personally, directly, with an answer to your question. It was about working as an OFW, I believe. So we'll deal with that one-to-one. I'll send you a message and deal with you one-to-one on Facebook. Anybody else, leave a question, leave a comment down below, and I'll answer your comments or bring them up in the next video. Next week, live interactive session. So don't be afraid. Next Friday, 8 o'clock Philippine time, 7 o'clock Thai time, coming back here live. And we'll be showing you what a real online live class looks like. So be sure to be here next week, and you can see what it looks like live online with real people. And we'll talk about things that you can do to liven up your demo video, liven up your demo class when you have to do the demo class to get your job, so that you get on a better salary rate and that you start getting clients relatively quickly, rather than working for 4 weeks and then getting dropped because nobody is signing up to you. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your time and attention, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Have a good weekend. See you next Friday. Don't forget, tell your friends, share, let them know to come and see. Let them know to ask questions. I would really love to have some questions ahead of time that I can answer for you guys. I know lots of you would like to get into the online world. It's steady money. If you've got a decent internet connection, it's not difficult to get into. And you don't need a lot of expensive hardware to do it with. So come back next week. Questions down below in the comment section. You can send me a note on Facebook if you've got questions, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.